This content is brought to you by BEC Financial Technologies, developing and operating IT for Danish banks.
I would very much like to give you a short pitch around how to transform 60 years fintech, how to transform its platforms, its core platforms, its architecture. And I would love to interact with you at the very beginning. So I would very much like to ask you a couple of questions and get your answers by raising a hand. It's enough. So how many of you have been working on transforming monoliths into microservices? Only such few people? All right. Does it mean that the rest is, is people who arrived to IT market with boot camps during a COVID? Maybe. All right, let's move on. How many of you have more than 20 years of experience working in IT? All right, we have few or even fewer. And how many of you saw 50 years old working code? Ah, we have few over there. Awesome. That means that our company is not the oldest with the experience in the room. Because in fact, today, as I mentioned, I would love to talk about how we transform the foundation of the 60 years old fintech. In a nutshell, it means that we really have some code which was written 50 years ago and it still works in production. All right, my name is Sebastian Gos and I'm development manager in BEC. I'm also a happy coding dad of two. And I'm happy to talk with you about the topics that are mentioned over here. So if you would love to chit-chat, network during the breaks, I'll be also hanging around over here. So you are always more than welcome to come and talk. Let's give you some of the background about the history of the company. I promise it will be very short. So as a company, we have been founded in 1964. So in fact, yes, this year we're 60 years old and tomorrow we'll be celebrating a big party in Warsaw about that. Worth to mention is that it was like, the main reason for it was economy of scale. Two banks in Denmark decided that all other banks, they also have to have their own IT departments with those large computers taking half of the buildings. And it would make sense to consolidate and to have IT to be done by one company. So they brought those weird looking guys in the long sweaters, eating pizza and smelling weird, sitting in the basement to the one room. And that's how BEC was founded. And then over the years, more and more banks been joining this group, and we work in a sort of like Spotify model subscription, where you subscribe to IT services and we provide IT services end-to-end. The fact is that today we have more than 50 customers, which means more than 50 banks that we serve our services to from the Nordic countries. Does it mean 50 different branches? No, because Nordic countries are quite unique in that case. There is more than 120 banks, brands of the banks, just in Denmark. And there are also some other interesting facts, like, for instance, negative interest rate for the mortgages. So when you take mortgage in Denmark, they pay you to take the mortgage. Who of you wouldn't love to take that for your own flats, right? When we have been starting in 2017 in Poland, I was one of the first employees hired here. We are 50 people as of today. And we are still hiring. Robert is sitting over there. So if you would be interested, then don't hesitate to reach out. Let's have a time travel. Let's finish with, what's about BEC and tech, business related topics and some, advertisements. Let's start talking about technology. So let's sit into our time travel machine. Let's sit into DeLorean and let's move on to the 1966. By the way, do you know what's presented on the screen? Sorry? Yeah, punch cards, right? They've been used in 50s and 60s as the way to program the software. In Poland, you probably recall from your parents or your grandparents, or maybe some teachers on the studies, that we had some computers like Odra, for instance, that was taking a large amount of space in the rooms, where people have been using those cards. And that's the same start of the history of BEC. At the very beginning, we've been using that together with IBM 1410 as a, let's say, a big computer for that. Interesting fact is that BEC had been having trucks transporting that from the banks. Guys, trucks of these cards transporting every day to the data central, which was BEC, where all of those cards and programs have been processed. Can you imagine today, our programs going by tracks? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But that's how it was started. And the programmers at this time, they had to be really, I would say, bug-proof or error-proof when they've been doing any sort of programming. Because a single program could take a whole hour or a half of a day to proceed, which means that if you made a mistake, the next chance was tomorrow. All right, that was 1966. Let's move on with our DeLorean to 1980. Around 1980, in the 80s, BEC decided to move on with the mainframe, with the next IBM technology. And some of you might be like, oh, mainframe, COBOL. Ooh, guys, let's just run away from this conference. They're talking some legacy stuff. But 45 of 50 biggest banks in the world are still using mainframe as their core banking platform. So just for the awareness, it's still here, and it's here to stay in the banking sector at least. You can see that it was taking a lot of space. It was the most modern mainframe at this time. It was water-cooled. Funny fact, later on we moved into air cooling systems, air cooling hardware, and we are right now back to water cooling or liquid cooling systems once again. So, it's really like back to the future, but back to the past in some of these hardware stuff. At this time, BEC was looking into hard drive systems, into tape systems, because transporting those cards, they also figure out that it's ridiculous, and there are tons of new hardware, new tech coming soon. So that's why we've been moving to mainframe. Let's move on in the story. Let's use our DeLorean and move to 1995. Any thoughts? What popped in 1995? Come on. I hope there are people in the room who played this game. And for the ones who don't know what that is, guys, I hope that maybe this will bring your attention, and maybe you will be able to ask your older colleagues and play this game. When I see this, I'm like, I'm also like time traveling to the days when I was sitting with my friends, like 8 of us, because it was allowing to play 8 people and playing those games. No, but looking back to 1995, in 1995, there have been a programming language, if it only works, called Oak. Anyone knows what Oak was? No? Okay. It was renamed to Green at some point. Anyone knows what Green could be? No? All right. In 1995, Oak and Green finally changed the name for the Java. So you were right. 1995 Java arrived. And from this moment, in regards to all fintechs in the world, old fintechs, the whole acceleration of the internet applications started, extremely fast. Apart from that, there was one more language appearing. Does it say anything to you when I say Mocha? Which was lately then renamed to LiveScript? And then JavaScript arrived, right? But now you should be the guys talking about JavaScript on Java conference. No, but seriously, Robert, our HR person here, he understands, and I can assure you that our HR, they understand the difference between Java and JavaScript. So if you talk with them, they know what positions they should present to you. But Java together with JavaScript, I promise no more JavaScript on the presentation, they accelerated the true journey of transformation into direction of modern browser systems using internet. Let's move on once more with our DeLorean to 2008. Do you recall 2008 and what sort of the impact 2008 had on the IT sector and on the banking sector? Do you recall it? Yes, the economic crisis. And during the economic crisis, we could easily see that big fintechs and also IT departments in finance been suffering. There have been plenty of layoffs, which ended up by laying off not necessarily guys who are keeping operations stable, but all the guys who potentially been working on modernizing the infrastructures and modernizing the software and architectures. So it's not only the case in BEC, but also among other fintechs that during the period between 2008 and 2016, when microservices architecture arrived, when some new technologies and new versions of Java been arriving with, moving from monoliths to microservices, those big banks, those IT providers and fintechs been not necessarily working on modernizing the foundation. So let's move on, at least in B history, to 2017, because 2017, this branch was opened. And more or less from 2017, we have seen that the banks have been happy to invest once again into steady and also, I wouldn't say mainly steady, but into accelerating the modernization of the platforms. That's why we've been opening this office, looking for some very ambitious guys. What is more important, I think, in this presentation is also to give you a bit sort of feeling what is our ambition. So the ambition is, of course, on having an open and streamlined retail bank. What does it mean? Well, from the architectural point of view, we are currently transforming what you can see on the top, a monolith, into more open, standardized solution. So it means we need to open up our architecture because we see that we will not be able to succeed alone. We will not be able to develop all APIs, all microservices ourselves. We see that there is more and more external parties, startups, companies, small fintechs that want to participate in our journey too. That's why we are also looking into buy before build. That means that it is not necessarily building your solution for your own. It's also buying an existing modern solutions which are, let's say, market standard. And last but not least, when I look forward to the upcoming year, I could easily advertise BEC as a company that started their tech transformation late, but has a lot of room for people like you who already have some experience doing tech transformation on the Polish market. Remember, guys, we started our banking and fintech history in Poland 20 years ago, or 25 years ago. This company has started it 60 years ago. So we really have to pay a lot of attention at the moment to transform it. How we will do it? We have some ideas. You can see them over here. Jumping into cloud, jumping into API adoption and increasing API adoption across all our services, but also looking into unbundling mainframe, this legacy old mainframe walking outside like zombie from the coffin. But that's our plan, and I hope that this is giving you a feeling what are we doing. On the other hand, I think majority of talks you will hear today, we are also very eager to listen, because those things which you will hear today, they can support this journey. So if you are sitting in a company that is in front of tech transformation, then I hope this will give you also some inspiration. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian, for your presentation. And now I would like to ask you if you have any questions for Sebastian and for his presentation. Okay.
Hello. I would like to ask you about some details about which Java version you are using. Also, how many times during year you release new version on a production. Thank you.
New version of Java or new version of
no. Your software is using Java, I think.
Yes.
And which version? And second question is, how many times during the year you are able to release new version on production?
Sure. All right. So thanks a lot for the question. Great question. First of all, we're in majority of the places we're using Java 17 at the moment. I know that some of our guys are looking into already new services using even newer versions of Java. However, we can see that it's not the whole company using the same version, as there are some older services, like in banking, if it works, do not touch, right? But of course, we are also looking into what is the long time support for given versions of Java, and we are upgrading that when it arrives. What's more, you ask how often we are releasing. I think it also depends on the team and on the product. For instance, in the areas where I work around client-facing products, we are releasing a couple of times a day, I would even say. Not necessarily Java, but all potential releases. So front-end parts, Java parts, and also the data parts or the mainframe parts. We are releasing a couple of times a day, I would say. When it comes to Java itself, we are around 1,500 or 700 people, which means that there are different business domains. We have everything what banks need. So we have a mortgage domain, we have investment domain, we have accounts, payments. So if I would just talk on behalf of my single, small domain, I would say we are able to release probably a couple of times a week, not a day. But if you combine all releases from BEC, we easily release a couple of times a day. So all those theories about banks not being very, let's say, proactive in releasing, I think we are challenging that. I easily remember when I was joining BEC, we've been doing releases in my domain every 3 months. That requires a lot of work, not just from engineers, but also from, soft skills or project management skills from Scrum Masters and from product owners to educate the banks. Because in the banking sector, at the end of the day, you have a situation like the banks are really surprised. They don't like to be positively and negatively surprised. They don't like when the things are arriving faster. They also don't like when the things are arriving too late, right? Why? Because they usually create some big campaigns for new products to arrive. Try to imagine you spending $500,000 for the campaign, announcing that at the 30th of September, you will have a new software. And all the trainings are taking part in the September. And trying to imagine that you come to the customer and say, hey, we'll release that in July. No, you won't? So it's also a matter of all the engineering practices, right? Like, for instance, feature toggling comes to the play. And that was I would say, the big thing that's been happening in BEC for the last 6 years when I'm here, that we've been pushing hard to get ability to release multiple times a day. But still, it's also a great effort from our software development teams, as they have to be compliant with all the regulations on the market. And believe me, banking, together with the public sector, is probably the most regulated two sectors on the market. Any more questions, guys? Yes? I believe that the old hardware is not there anymore. It's not there anymore, but I have to say that the power that is placed in the hardware, in the Z machines of the mainframe, even though we do 8 million transactions daily, it is utilized on the level of 10%. So try to imagine how powerful are those machines, not necessarily for the COBOL code, but for any other activities. We also been, we also been thinking of whether we would be even able to run our own cloud on those machines, because they are so much powerful. And if you compare cloud and mainframe, mainframe is still faster. Of course, from the operational point of view and spawning and cost point of view, running cloud is way much more convenient. But when you look at the speed and also stability, the mainframe is still here to stay for many, many years, guys. So when you read some of the comments on some of the Facebook forums around, oh, they're looking for a COBOL developer, probably someone died. Well, it's not necessarily the case. We even have some of the guys sitting over there who just been graduated from studies, and they decided to take upon the path of COBOL developers.
Okay, thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sebastian. Once again, give him a big applause. And now Pavel will give him a little gift, a statue.